right, welcome back to the Painted Mini. My name is Travis, and it's been a long time. I'm back, and today we're actually going to finish our characters from Dune. It's been a long journey. It's been a lot of miniatures. I say that. We probably have some expansions that we'll have to revisit. But for now, I'm going to appease myself and say that I'll be done for a bit. So what I'm going to do, you'll notice that I have the ratios for my paints that I'm using. Just a heads up, everything I'm using now is Fanatic line from Army Painter. With a couple of small exceptions. I'll use air paint for some of the reds because I'm not real happy with the Fanatic reds. They're a little bit too pink, which is a common problem. I think they just try to put so much pigment in and they haven't quite figured out how to do it without using a very light colored white paint since it has so much pigmentation. So beyond that, I'll have that with the ratios. You'll notice I'm using the Army Painter Fanatic line stabilizer, and that just subs in with water. So if you don't have stabilizer, don't worry, just use water. It works fine. And anything else I'll try to point out as we go. I want to do something a little bit different today. As we go through and I paint these, I wanted to give a little information about the characters, and then we'll do something a little fun as well. I have some trivia set up for us, and I'll ask some trivia questions about each character, and then at the end I'll give you those answers. As well, we'll do a little rapid fire where we're going to decide whether a quote comes from Frank Herbert, from David Lynch's Dune film, or whether it comes from Denis Villeneuve. So we'll do that as we go, and I'll give the answers at the end. So make sure you stick around till the end, and we'll see if you are Kwisatz Haderach material in your knowledge of the Dune universe. And before we go too far, please give me a like and a subscribe to support the channel. So we're going to start off here. I started out, there he is again. We have our Emperor Shaddam IV. So let's look at a little information about him. All right, Shaddam Corrino IV is the 81st Padishah Emperor. In the novel, he embodies the fragile arrogance of a dynast who mistakes fear for loyalty. He's alarmed by Duke Leto's growing popularity and plots with Baron Harkonnen to exterminate House Atreides, secretly deploying the Sadaukar in Harkonnen dress, a false flag operation. The scheme backfires tremendously, and Paul's jihad topples Shaddam's throne. He forces the emperor to accept political marriage between Paul and his daughter, Princess Irulan. So Herbert paints Shaddam as clever yet cautious, quick to move pieces on the board, but ultimately sort of a paralyzed leader. Not very effective in the end. All right, so you'll see here I've done white cloak. I'm using, I decided that for the Emperor, the Imperial Guard, I wanted a lot of white. I kind of like that depiction. And I needed to offset that. So for a shade, I kind of went with a very light blue, almost a icy blue. So I'm using the speed paint. It's the Battleship Gray. And you can see I'm doing the hair here. And then I'll go through and after that dries, the speed paint, I go through right here. And I'm going to apply my highlight white, which is a lot of white, a tiny bit of the gray. Again, that one's a 7-to-1 ratio, so just a touch of gray, as the Grateful Dead would say. All right, let's go ahead and do the first trivia question. This one is for Shaddam. After abdicating effective power to Paul, to which planet is Shaddam IV exiled to with his remaining household? Our four options are A. Caladan, B. Wallach IX, C. Salusa Secundus, or D. Ix. Okay, and here I've zipped up a little bit. You can see I'm still highlighting. And I'm going to jump over here and just throw some wash, soft tone on his face. And now we're going to move on and do one of the Sardaukar. So you see I got about 1-to-1 ratio of the plate metal. That's the stabilizer I was talking about. Again, just treat it like water. And we're just going to hit all the armor. Nice and easy. I do think that the War Painter metallics can be a little too strong. It's as if they have too much metallic flake. So I tend to water them down a little bit. I think Vallejo actually has my favorite of the metallic paints. Theirs are very smooth. They actually look more like natural metal. I think the Army Painter stuff can have a little bit too much glitter effect. Just kind of crazy sparkle flake instead of a smooth finish. Okay, so here I got barbarian flesh is the darkest flesh I tend to use for Caucasian people. I tend to start with the dark color like always when I'm layering up. So I just mix the barbarian flesh with the stabilizer. And here we have Captain Aramsham. So he's the company commander of the Sadaukar shock troops during the fall of House Atreides in the novel. He kind of comes in late in Dune. During the occupation of Arrakis. So he ends up getting captured alive when the Muad'Dib fremen retake the city. He's forced to confront the collapse of the Imperium he serves. Paul spares him on the condition that he carry a formal demand for surrender to the Emperor. There's a single scene where Herbert uses Arsham to contrast the pride of the Sadaukar with the Fremen fanaticism and to underscore how completely Paul has reversed the balance of power. You have to keep in mind throughout the lore in Dune, the Sadaukar are just these untouchable, almost mythical warriors, and they are completely devastated by the Fremen. So it's a real flip. Let's go ahead and hit up with our next trivia question. And I'll go ahead and give you the answer to the last one. The last one was asking which planet the Emperor and his men had to retreat to. And of course, they went back to the training grounds of the Sardaukar. The answer was Seleucus Secundus. Okay, for the next question, we're going to ask about Arisham's forces. So, when the Emperor's forces attacked Arrakis, Arisham's men wore the livery of which house in order to hide Imperial involvement? A false flag operation, if you will. A is House Corrino, B is House Harkonnen, C is House Atreides, and D is House Rechis. Okay, we're going to switch over here. You can see we're going to these, the cape, the cloak. And again, I want to use mainly a white with a little hint of blue. I think what I did here is I kept the top part of the cape white and then the bottom more of the blue-gray. So I have a little bit of contrast. So there's like an upper cloak and a lower skirt that just sort of meld together. So again, after I do the metallic, I just go in with a wash, super simple, hit all of the metal areas. Okay, so I'm using that Aqua Alchemy with a little bit of a wash mix to thin it with a little bit of the speed paint medium. Just trying to get a very thin, light, almost not quite a glaze, but pretty darn close. If you didn't catch it, I painted his head a white color just so it would hold. And that was a Sadaukar, that was not the captain, so he's actually wearing a helmet. So it'll have a little bit of that blue cast on the helmet. So here you can see I've got definitely the gray on the bottom. And now I'm going to go through with that blue wash. Just hit the whole bottom of the skirt. And we're just hitting with a white highlight. That's actually a light gray. Highlights on the upper part. I guess now would be a good time. Let's talk about the Sadaukar themselves a little bit. They are the Emperor's terrifying elite fanatical soldiers forged on the prison planet Seleucus Secundus, where only a fraction of recruits survive the brutal climate and training. They are conditioned from childhood to kill or die without hesitation. They serve as the mailed fist that keeps the Landsraad in check. Landsraad is like the parliamentary system. Before the rise of Muad'Dib, even the great houses measured themselves in relation to Sardaukar's standards of discipline, knife fighting, and zero hesitation obedience. They are the bar. Their eventual defeat by Fremen irregulars is Herbert's proof that cultural passion and harsh ecology can outstrip even the most sophisticated state-sponsored militarism. Maybe he's creating a little bit of an allegory, or maybe, as Tolkien would say, applicability to the Vietnam War, looking at when this came out. But let's answer our last trivia question. The last one was asking about Captain Aram Sham, whose livery did his troops wear. This one was pretty easy. The answer was B, House Harkonnen. And let's go ahead and ask the Sardaukar trivia question now. In full dress, and again, this is going to go back to the books. In full dress, not in battlefield disguises, what color is their traditional uniform of a Sadaukar trooper? A, it's blood red with black piping. B, imperial gray trimmed with silver. C is deep blue with gold lions. D, sand khaki mottled camo. And again, that is based on the actual novel. So we'll see who my readers are. And you'll notice I kind of go back and forth when I paint whether I should just show you one example of each type of figure from beginning to end, or if I should show you my actual process, which I'm trying to be ecological and save paint. So if I'm going to do, say, the captain, and then I'm going to turn around and do the Sardaukar, I'm going to do them in the same batch of colors since they are pretty much wearing the same things. In addition, I don't want to sit here and show you all 12 or however many there are of the Sadaukar figures from the game. But, of course, I am painting them in sequence usually for efficiency. Here I did kind of show you multiples, me painting different figures, doing the same step, just because I think that watching this step is one of the most helpful to see highlighting, how people highlight up. So that second color is just a little bit lighter than the first, and just kind of going through and picking out the high ridges, the areas, and trying to keep it subtle, which I'm not very good at sometimes. Sometimes I have too much of the new paint on my brush, and it just eats right through the previous color. But you should see that previous color remains as a little bit of an outline in my new highlights. I'm not trying to completely cover it. I'm trying to paint within it. I guess paint within the previous color. So I do go on and I show you a couple examples here just so you can kind of see that, because some are better than others. And then my last step here, because the game board is all sand desert, these warriors are not going to stay too clean. So I wanted to give them a little bit of a dirt line, a little bit of mud, just dirty sand, whatever it happens to be, little stained water line. at the bottom of their cloaks. So I do all the Sadaukar and the captain first, and then using the same brush without really dipping it much more. It's definitely a little lighter application. I hit the Emperor because, of course, he's not going to have as much mud. So here he is, just a touch. Some people have a very clean, almost idyllic painting style. I see it a lot with Warhammer painters. Just very clean, very neat, a little more cartoon than reality. I tend to go with the reality. And then here I'm just showing you how I base on this for a board game. I'm just going to paint the color. I'm not going to go in and put a whole lot of extra stuff because I need these to fit back in the container I store them in. So I don't want to add a lot of basing. Here we have Princess Irulan. And I'm going into doing her face. Now when I do her, and the same with Lady Fenris, I've decided not to use the barbarian flesh color. It's too dark. So I started with the next color in, which is the Dorado skin. And have a little bit of trouble with these minis. Some of the molding is not very good. And I'm not real good at cleaning up the flash. So I do get myself into a little bit of trouble. And to be honest, some of the molds are just not great. You'll see on Count Fenris's face, I had so much trouble with the right side as he's facing you of his face. Just seems kind of malformed. So I just hope other people are having the same issues as me. We can all suffer together. In addition, the other problem I have with doing the skin tones, especially the light colored skin tones, is they have, again, a lot of white pigment. And white pigment is the hardest. It comes out chalky often. It's hard to keep it thin and still have it provide coverage. It just kind of clumps up more than other colors. And this is Count Fenris and Hasamir. I'm sorry, not Fenris. That's a dog. It's Count Hasamir Fenring. And you can see here for the first real highlight color, I've mixed the barbarian with the Dorado 1-to-1, so it's a little bit lighter than just the barbarian. And touching off the highlight parts. All right, so Hasamir Fenring, he is kind of considered the Emperor's errand boy, a killer with the manners of a rabbit. He's Shaddam IV's closest confidant, and he's actually one of the deadliest men in the Imperia. He is one of the people that the Bene Gesserit were looking at as their Kwisatz Haderach, and was pretty close. He had an issue with, I believe, he is sterile. He is a genetic eunuch. So they couldn't use him for their master plan. But he was kind of the backup part of the long-term plan that they had to abandon. So he just becomes the right-hand man of the Emperor, since he is not only physically considered to be superior, he has a near-prescient intuition, talent for political assassination. He's just unsuitable because of his sterility. So he is basically Shaddam's private dagger and diplomatic fixer. He does have a cool moment. His quiet refusal to assassinate Paul in the throne room is this pivotal moment where he puts his personal integrity over his lifelong loyalty to the emperor. Um, so he's not irredeemable. And this is where I'm actually using the air paint for the red, pure red air instead of the Fanatic pure red. And then this is Lady Margot Fenring. So Margot is Margot Rashino-Zea. She's a Bene Gesserit adept. She's married to Count Hasmer Fenring. She's very subtle and ruthlessly loyal to the Sisterhood's breeding program. She ends up infiltrating the Harkonnen court. She warns Lady Jessica of impending danger. And she sort of exemplifies Herbert's recurring motif of like quiet female agency, moving in shadows of power, whispering words, all those sort of intrigues as a means of power instead of open force, which we see with a lot of his females. So let's do a little trivia here. For the last trivia question, we were asking about the Sadaukar's uniform, and the answer to that is they wore imperial gray trimmed with silver. Okay, let's go ahead and do Lady Margot Fenring. What critical item does Margot leave with Fade Rotha after their encounter, ensuring the Bene Gesserit retain the desired genes? Is it A, a cryogenic vial of his blood, B, a pregnancy with his child, C, a clandestine tissue sample taken by Suk doctors, D, a Bene Gesserit dew sample preserving his saliva? And I definitely wanted to make sure that the Fenrings were in the same outfit, same red. One thing I decided is, and I've done this in the past, I think, with the Harkonnen troops, and I know technically these are Harkonnens. They should have been painted with the Harkonnens, but there were a lot of Harkonnens already, so I kind of added them with the Empire since they're kind of advisors anyway. But one thing I have done with our Harkonnens and try to be kind of consistent is instead of just doing black and making it look like cloth, I kind of go with the creepy black rubber in places. So I'll use like black and put a bit of a gloss coat on top of it to just give it this shiny black rubber. Now, I'll be honest, some of my minis, it's probably a little overdone. I need to go in and maybe dole those out a little bit. It's a lot easier if you have something that's too shiny, too gloss, to kind of dole it back down. So I didn't worry about it too much. But you'll see in the end, I leave a little bit of gloss on the black parts of some of the capes, some of the outfits. Here I'm just trying to really get in and take advantage of all those cracks and crevices. So I'm using a magenta shade, and I'm laying my mini down sideways so that it dries in a natural shadow area. Otherwise, with shade, it's common for all of your shade to drip down to the bottom of the mini, which isn't where shadows would be. Light is not affected by gravity in the same way that liquid is. Here I'm using a gray, and I'm using my little texture palette here, and just going to do a little quick dry brush on the cape. And I'm going to go in with another color, lighter gray, on top of that as well. And then I hit the whole thing with a little bit of gloss. This is a little, instead of hair dryer, this thing's a little quicker. Got to be careful because it's also hotter. It's used as in an embossing kit that we had years ago. I'm not sure what else those are used for, but it's like a little heat gun. You just have to be careful. You will melt the paint right off a mini. This is me going in with a second highlight color, which I'm dry brushing on. And I do not buy the expensive Artist Opus dry brush. I get a really cheap set. I started out using my wife and daughter's makeup brushes. Um, they did not appreciate that. I finally found a cheap dry brush set. There's no reason to spend a lot of money on dry brush. I mean, if you're dry brushing and bristles are getting stuck, maybe get a slightly better one, but I've never had any problem. These brushes are going to get ruined. Kind of heavy-handed here. And now I'm taking black, matte black, deep gray, and stabilizer, and just creating a very dark mix. And I'm just going to go in and do shadows and lining, I think is what we used to call it. You kind of line a miniature, get the sort of the deepest recesses and places like between a shirt cuff and the skin, maybe between pants and the boot. Just do a real thin, dark line. Some people like it, some people don't. Okay, it looks like she's dried. Now I've gone and taken that greedy gold metallic with a little bit of stabilizer, and I'm just trying to do gold trim. Normally I don't use a good brush. Oh, it's not. Okay, I thought that was an Artist Opus for a second. Yeah, so use your second line of brushes when you're using metallics or washes or anything that's not just regular paint. Try to keep some of the weirdness out of your bristles. This is just an army painter brush, so you'll note it still looks very wet, the magenta wash and the paint, but it will dry. I try not to accelerate washes with the heater, with my heat gun, because sometimes it'll pull into, if it dries too fast, it'll discolor and you'll get little white or gray pools, which I don't want. And you'll notice I don't mind a little bit of a pool. I just want it to be the color it's supposed to be. I tend to go heavy with washes, heavier than I should. But again, I'm painting miniatures for a game, and there's a lot of them. I'm not going to take the time that I would take. I'm not entering any contests or competitions here. I'm not painting minis as, show-stopping display pieces. I'm all about the games. That's why I hope, this channel might be helpful for some people who, if you watch the professionals paint, it can be discouraging. So I just try to do things that are quick and simple. I'm not very good, but I get a lot painted. Just gotta sit down and do it. All right, kind of finishing up the count, getting those final. And whether I show it or not, anytime I use metallic like this, I'll go over it with a wash. Soft tone usually for gold, strong tone if I'm using like a plate mail silver metallic. And I go ahead and run that trim all the way down. He's got like a ribbon of it that goes down his trouser leg all the way to his boot. last thing on him, except for the base, is his little blade. So just went with a plate mail metallic. And I take that same plate mail metallic, the silver, and I use it as a highlight on the gold. Just kind of touching the metals, top part of some of his ropes. Just to kind of create a little bit of a highlight for the gold. I do the same with Lady Fenring. Just hitting little pieces with silver. And her hair, I actually just did with gold and silver. I kind of mute it down later on, but I see them as being like completely opulent. And here is the princess. So she has this cool gown that's kind of a light silvery gold. And I had it kind of like the picture, but it just looked a little too light and all one contrast. I kind of needed, or all one color. I kind of wanted to up the contrast. So I go in here with a wash. And I'm really going to get in. There's so much cool texture on these minis. I wanted to really get in and wash through some of that texture to pull it out. Okay, so Princess Irulan, she is a Bene Gesserit. She's steeped in imperial politics. She is the oldest daughter of Shaddam IV. And we as readers largely know about the Dune universe and everything happened because of her acting as the chronicler of the Muad'Dib. So she shows both admiration and frustration for the events in her life. She's married to Paul for political convenience. She is denied his love and the heir that her sisterhood desperately wants because he is in love with Chani. Across the original trilogy, she kind of evolves a little bit from this ambitious observer to a cautiously loyal guardian of Paul's children who become big, important in later books. I don't want to spoil a lot. But it kind of ties in with that idea that Herbert has that history is written by the uneasy winners in a situation. So this is our last piece of character trivia, and this one is pretty tough. Most chapters... Oh, first off, let's go back and answer our previous one. What was the last question? Was it on Lady Fenris? I keep saying Fenris. Lady Fenring, I believe it was. The answer, of course, is that she was pregnant with Fade Rotha's child. So her gift to the Bene Gesserit. Okay. Last question for characters here. So Princess Irulan. Most chapter headings in Dune are drawn from which work attributed to Princess Irulan? A. The Stolen Journals. B. Muad'Dib, Family Commentaries. C. In My Father's House. Or D. Analysis, the Jihad. Analysis, the Jihad. Okay, and now let's go ahead and do some rapid fire. This is the second little section I got for you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through. I'm going to ask you about a quote, and you're going to have to tell me, is it from Frank Herbert's novel, Dune, and I'm only using the 1965 original novel? Is it B, from David Lynch's 1984 film, or C, Is it from Denis Villeneuve's 21 and what 24? Dune Part 1 and Part 2. So A is Frank Herbert, B is David Lynch, and C is Denis Villeneuve. And I don't think any of these are going to have an answer that applies to more than one source. So this is for my true fans here, be able to tell which quote comes from which source. So here we go. Number one is going to be a quote from Sadaukar. Usul, we have worm sign, the likes of which even God has never seen. So again, you're going to tell me, is that quote from Frank Herbert, David Lynch, or Deneuve? Number two, when religion and politics travel in the same cart, the writers believe nothing can stand in their way. That is a line from Lady Jessica, citing a Bene Gesserit proverb. Tell me what the source of that quote is. Next one is going to be from Duke Leto Atreides. And it is, a great man doesn't seek to lead. He's called to it, and he answers. Again, is that from Herbert, Lynch, or Deneuve? Next one is from Thufir Hawat. Dr. Yui, put the weirding module on him. All right, next one is from Princess Irulan. There should be a science of discontent. People need hard times and oppression to develop psychic muscles. All right, number 6. This one is a Sardaukar epigraph. Power over spice is power over all. And number 7. This is from the Collected Sayings of Muad'Dib. Arrakis teaches the attitude of the knife, chopping off what's incomplete and saying, now it's complete, because it's ended here. Number 8 is Channing. Dreams are messages from the deep. And number 9, from Muad'Dib himself. My name is a killing word. And the last one, number 10, from Thufir Hawat. A popular man arouses the jealousy of the powerful. All right, for each of those, go back if you need to. A, if it's from Herbert, B, if it's from Lynch, and C, if it's from Denis Villeneuve. Villeneuve? I am not so French. Okay, here we have, back to the painting here. I'm just highlighting, touching up, finishing up, getting close. We don't talk about his face. I was trying to get kind of a good eyebrow. So I'm using a brown, and then I end up with too much. So then I go over back with a skin color to kind of narrow that eyebrow back. Same with the eyes. I don't really try to dot eyes like I used to. I'll put a dot of color in there, and then I'll put a darker color sometimes beside it. But mainly I'm just trying to get a band of darkness into the recession and then going back over it with the light skin color to kind of re-highlight the brow and the cheekbones. And it just kind of leaves that band of color, which from a tabletop height works pretty well. Now, granted, he came out a little strange, partially because the shape of his face. I don't know what to do with that side. But I wanted him to have kind of these big, not Thufir Hawat, Lynch Dune bushy, but slightly bushy eyebrows. But I do go in, I do a dark color, and then I do some little dots of highlight. But I don't want it to look like a pupil surrounded by white. I don't want googly eye minis, which I usually end up with if I try too hard. So I just kind of put the impression of eyes Maybe sometime I'll play around with different things and get better. And I've had some problems with focus. A lot of the footage I have, I just cut out because of things not being in focus. And in this video, there's still plenty of things that are not in focus, as well as problems with my hat. I don't have a good angle, so I'm changing all of that up. I went and bought a new monitor, which is a designated camera monitor, and it shows me the focus peaking, which helps a lot. So hopefully that'll fix it. And I'm switching the camera angle. I don't have a big fancy setup, so I have to kind of roll with what I've got, but I'm altering the angle a little bit, which will keep my hair out of the miniature or out of the frame. I also have a better light that is on the way. It was a Kickstarter, so I have to wait for it. And here, because I overpainted with the trim, I'm just going back now with black and kind of cleaning it up. All right, and here I'm just going to go in with that black, and I think I mute it down a little bit, dilute it down with a little water, and I'm just doing sort of lining, again, undersides, very shadowy areas. I think I redo her shoe. So there's a little bit of a black tip sticking out, that red dress. But really just shadowing the folds and the separate pieces of clothing. And I probably overdo it a little bit. And back to Irulan, same thing. I'm just going to utilize that black and kind of touch up some shadows, create some distinction. And it's not, again, it's not the same black that I was using on Lady Fenring's clothing. I did dilute it down a little bit. So it's more of a dark gray, and it's thinned out to where it's a little closer to a wash. It's still pretty black, so probably stronger than strong tone. Picking out lines of her dress from her skin. This mold looks so much like Princess Diana. Has Diana hair. That's one of the big changes in the Danube movie, is how the ending was changed, tweaked a little bit with Chani and Princess Irulan. So let me know if you have strong thoughts. I kind of understand why he did it as far as the film goes and what's to come. But it definitely is a little bit of a change from the novel. Using my lightest highlight for the skin here. And it's the same mix. I've just upped the ratio of the pearl. And going back here to the red highlight color, upping it one notch, and just hitting the spots. We are about done here. If you didn't already, please like and subscribe this video. I do have another one coming out soon. It is going to finish us off for the War for Arrakis set. It's going to be the sandworms and the buildings. I've already finished the worms. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the buildings. They keep going back and forth on how I'm doing that. So I will figure that out. The worms are all painted. So I'll be able to get this next video out pretty quick. Other than that, I just have some expansion material to do, and that will be it. All right, thank you for tuning in. Please give me a like and a subscribe, and send me comments, send me pictures. Let me know if this is helping out at all, if you have any questions. But share your successes, share your failures, and I will continue to do the same. Thanks again, and I will talk to you next time. Next video will be out soon. Goodbye.